So in my vast DVD collection, I own more films of the action genre than of any other. So what are my top 5 favorites? Well, stick around and find out. Now, doing a top 5 list like this is very difficult. There are so many great films out there, so many things I love, and because I have such a large collection, there's so many films to go through and critique and just trying to figure out which one hits that right nerve. And my sort of criteria for this list is what is most satisfying on the base action movie level. What gives you the most adrenaline? What gives you the most excitement? What is not necessarily the best film or you like the best film of the franchise, because there's one exception here, but what is a film that just excites the living hell out of you? What has all these great action sequences, just gives you that great action movie junkie satisfaction. And these are the top 5 films, my favorites of the action genre that I want to share with you. So let's start off right here, right now. Number 5 on the list, my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger film, Predator. And what makes this my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger film is that I love the characters in this thing. These are such memorable, quotable characters. Probably one of the most, Arnold's got so many quotable films, but this is a great one because he's not just the only one firing off the one-liners, all the memorable quotes. Great characters, great cast of characters, greatly directed by John McTiernan, fantastic. He's got that great sense of charismatic, vibrant, exciting fun, but he still can make it very tense, very suspenseful, very threatening, very frightening here and there. And what I really like about this film, because I had some problems with the movie's Aliens, because of like the Colonial Marines in that film came off with like a lot of chest-pounding, bravado-strutting type of macho motherfuckers who finally get in the shit and they look like a bunch of rank amateurs. Dutch's team in this film, they are the elite. They are fucking badass to the core. They can handle almost anything the world can throw at them. But even then, once they get in this jungle, they're unnerved. They're kind of scared about what this jungle has for them. They can feel something in the air. And when they confront this predator, when this thing starts hunting them, and you see that this badass elite, highly skilled, highly capable team is getting wasted by this predator, it just enhances the quality, the threat of the predator. And how this film just knocks them off one by one till you just got Dutch and the predator there, and that climax, so damn good. And there's just something to say about like almost a whole third act where there's almost no dialogue. It's just all this great plotting and all this great crafting of suspense and anticipation, and just so good. And Alice Ventry's score, absolutely fantastic in this film. It's got that great militaristic but also jungle feel to it. It's such a great blending of everything, and the effects of this thing are absolutely stunning, absolutely stunning. Stan Winston's work creating that predator, legendary, and that just speaks everything to his career. And this is one of the best films from McTiernan and Schwarzenegger and everyone involved. Perfect film. Number 4 on the list is a James Bond film, one of my favorites, License to Kill, starring Timothy Dalton as 007 James Bond. Now this is the exception I mentioned earlier, that this is not my favorite Bond film, that is Casino Royale. But on a pure action movie level, License to Kill is probably the most satisfying Bond film I have seen. I have seen everything from A View to a Kill onward. And this has some of the best stunt sequences, the best action sequences, the best set pieces of the entire franchise. So innovative, so ambitious, such great practical work with stunts and everything. It's not a whole bunch of CGI like you'd have today. It's all these amazing practical stunts that they just throw in here. And I love the film that it's Bond gets revenge, that he's a lot more dark, a lot more edge to him, that he's throwing out the rule book. He's a lot more ruthless, merciless, going after this great film, one of my favorite Bond. I think Franz Sanchez from Robert Davi is one of the best Bond villains of the whole fucking franchise. Just amazing. I just love it. And you got Benicio del Toro. He's one of his henchmen in an early role, and there's just so much good stuff in this film. I love Michael Kamen's his score in this film. I really, really like. I like how he kind of rearranges the Bond theme a little more different kind of style to it, a little more smoother, a little more charisma, suave type of feel to it. I really like how he rearranged the score, and I love Dalton as Bond. If you like the Daniel Craig Bond movies, definitely give Timothy Dalton's Bond movies, The Living Daylights and License to Kill, your time, because they're damn good. They're damn good movies. The action sequences, like I said, some of the best. I love in the opening sequence that you got Bond being lowered down from a helicopter onto a plane to get Sanchez, and you got the water ski stuff, and you just got all these big, amazing, fantastic action sequences that are just like, this is one of the most action satisfying Bond films ever. It has such scale and scope and such an edge to it that I think a lot of the other Bond films don't quite have. That they don't have that big spectacle with the edge to it. A lot of danger and suspense and just this ruthless feel to it. I just love the Bond gets revenge premise of this whole thing. And it's got great payoff at the end. Just stellar all the way through. And number 3 on the list is a 1970s film from Walter Hill. You should know it. It's a cult classic, The Warriors. Now this is a film I saw way back in the late 90s on Joe Bob Briggs on TNT. They had a bit of a different cut of it back then, but it introduced me to the film, and I've loved it ever since. It's one of the fantastic movies I've ever seen. I know my friend Trent Zuberi of Hemi, one of his favorite films, he could probably quote the whole film without ever watching it again. He could do that. And this is such a great, gritty 1970s urban gang film. It's just, this film in the theaters in 1979 incited gang violence in the theaters, that they had to do all this stuff to pull out of theaters or change the poster, just do all this stuff to tone down that kind of atmosphere around the film. And I just love that this is an ensemble piece, and they got this great gang of all these different characters who all have their own different styles, their own little personality traits and everything. And they got this whole plot where you got this one guy, Cyrus, who wants to bring all the gangs together in this big mega thing and just rule the whole city. And it's just all this great dialogue, all this and very 70s type of dialogue that you'd never get away with today. All this kind of stuff, very, very politically incorrect stuff, and some just classic, memorable lines. And they're just not. It's not like some of the other films on this thing where there's big spectacle, there's big action sequences, giant stunts. No, this is a very down and dirty, gritty stuff. It's just physical violence, just great stuff, just people beating each other up and all this kind of stuff, chase sequences, just all that dark, gritty, visceral quality to the whole film is fantastic. And Walter Hill, definitely one of the great action movie directors who hasn't done as much work as he probably should have. That he's done 48 Hours, another 48 Hours, Red Heat, he's done all this kind of stuff, and it's just fantastic work. And he is one of the best action movie directors around that doesn't quite get as much recognition as someone like John McTiernan or whoever else. But The Warriors, absolutely fantastic movie. And I like that the film also has a little bit of character story arcs here and there. That you got the character of Swan, who kind of goes through this sort of process in the film where it just feels like there's something other than what he's been doing, this gang life and everything. At the end of the film, he just feels like, as the Joe Walsh song In the City reflects, that is there something else more out on that horizon. And I love those little qualities of the film. There's a little bit more substance to it than just all the action, which is fantastic and great. I think it's a real action cinema masterpiece from Walter Hill that should never go unheralded. And that moves us into number 2, which, oddly enough, it is number 2, but it's probably the best action movie absolutely ever made, Die Hard. Do I really have to explain Die Hard to you? Do I really have to? Who has not? If you have not seen Die Hard, why haven't you seen Die Hard? Forget about all these newer sequels. Go back to the original. You will be blown the living hell away. Die Hard is some of the most amazing, dynamic, exciting, innovative action sequences. It really made the real big spectacle at the time. It changed action movies at its time. Because there were other things that Schwarzenegger and Stallone were doing that were a bit of a spectacle, Rambo stuff, Commando stuff like that, but Die Hard just pushed it sky high. Pushed it sky high with more than just action. It created great substantive characters and little emotional beats here and there. It created such a great crafted story all the way around. And Bruce Willis, at that time, people were skeptical about him because he did a lot of comedies, had been an action star. Once this thing hit, no one had any question whatsoever that Bruce Willis was a bona fide action movie type of guy, which was a little different from Stallone and Schwarzenegger, who are much more these big, invisible masses of muscle. Bruce Willis looks like a regular guy, looks like a cop from New York, regular average guy, and he's getting shot and cut up. He's got bare feet through the whole film, and he gets his feet torn up with glass, and he's bleeding all over the place. He's a vulnerable, real kind of guy that you can makes him much more interesting than instead of the big invincible type of Terminator or Rambo type of things like the Rambo 3s or whatever it is. That John McClane was this regular guy, average guy, vulnerable as you and I, and he's being pushed through all this crap, and he's scared to death at every single turn, getting shot at, going through air ducts, falling through things, jumping off a building while it's blowing up. It's just an amazing movie. And then, of course, action movie is only really as good as the villain that you're fighting. And Alan Rickman's Hans Gruber, one of the best action movie villains ever made. Fantastic performance that Rickman adds that level of sophistication. It's not just regular. It's not that one-dimensional type of villain. That he has a little more substance to it. He's got a little more character, a little more dynamics in his personality, that he can work in a much more intelligent, cunning type of way, that he's got a lot more to offer. And he's equally as interesting and entertaining as John McClane. And they're just great characters, great actors, great stuff all the way around. Again, a John McTiernan movie that is shot brilliantly. Every single shot is just amazing. And again, another Michael Kamen score. Absolutely fantastic score. Perfect. I love that Michael Kamen brought that little extra, again, a sense of sophistication, a little bit more, a higher quality to things. And it's so sad that he's passed away, because he gave us some stunning, amazing scores. But number one on this list, you're going to ask what can possibly be a larger favorite to me than Die Hard. It's the adrenaline rush of all time, Point Break. Point Break I absolutely love, and the thing that I really like about this film, that besides that is this 100% adrenaline fueled action picture, that you have this great dynamic between the Johnny Utah character and the Bodhi character, Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze. That these are two characters that, because Johnny Utah, he's in the FBI, brand new green type of guy, complete rookie, going undercover to find these notorious bank robbers, the ex-presidents. And Johnny Utah, he gets closely involved in the philosophy and the spirituality that Bodhi has with the surfing and the sea, just being very kind of Zen surfing master type of thing, and become very intertwined, very closely involved with each other as very close friends. They develop this really great bond before they ever realize that they're adversaries, and then once they become adversaries, it creates this electric intensity in the film, this great, unexpected, unpredictable sort of dynamic. You don't know how far it's going to go, how far Bodhi is going to push. Once things start going right off the rails, you don't know how far Bodhi is going to push things right off the deep end, right off the edge, and it creates this great momentum, this great electricity in the film. And I love that the film has all this action junkie type of stuff, and it actually does work into the plot. It's not just there to be cool or be trendy or hip or anything. It actually works into the whole core of the story, that these guys, the ex-presidents who are robbing all these banks, they're not doing it just for the money. They're doing it to show all these dead souls inching along the highways in their metal coffins that the human spirit is still alive, that they're still passionate, that they're still willing to take risks and be alive and everything. And it just works its way so deeply and interwoven into all the fabric of the film. Great performances in this film from Patrick Swayze. He absorbs in that character of Bodhi right into the fiber of his being. And when I watch this film, I see Bodhi. I don't see Patrick Swayze in the performance. I see that character on the screen, and it's fantastic. I am a Keanu Reeves fan. I really like Keanu Reeves in a lot of things. Obviously, I've got my Constantine poster here. I love him in so many different things, and I think this is really, a lot of people boast Speed as the big action movie breakthrough for Keanu. I say it's Point Break. I say Point Break is a way better film than Speed. I love Point Break like living hell, and I love this film because it's got all that great extreme action, adrenaline type of stuff with the skydiving, the surfing, the great bank robbery stuff, and it's just and this is directed by Catherine Bigelow, who a lot of people know from a lot of her recent Academy Award successes and everything. She did some great stuff in the 90s between Point Break and Strange Days, which is absolutely incredible, stunning, mind-blowing type of movie. You should definitely see that. If I did a top 5 science fiction movies, you'd definitely see that very high on the list. So that's what I got for you. My top 5 favorite action movies of all time. I don't know what else to say about this stuff. I love Point Break. There's so much good stuff in it. My thing is, I love the ending of Point Break so much. I just love the payoff of that whole dynamic between Bodhi and Johnny Utah. I love that ending as one of my favorite movie endings of all time. I want to pay tribute to that in one of my own films, absolutely, and I just love it. It's just so perfect, and I love everything about that movie. And if you've not seen any of these movies, I implore you, go see any one of these movies, all these movies. Go check them out and have a great action movie, exciting time with them. And that's basically all I got for this thing. That's me. I'm spent. You go, tell me, what are your top 5 favorite action movies? What really gets your adrenaline pumping with what action movies? I don't care what decade they came out in. Tell me what they are. Because I had a lot of other things. I wanted to make this top 10, but I couldn't quite figure out a couple other things. But I had stuff like Dread in there, and The Last Boy Scout, and a lot of other things that were not easy to figure out. But what's your top 5 favorite action movies? Post some comments below, and I will interact, and I will get back to you sooner than later with another video, and we'll see what happens. Take care. Bye.